Witcher fanfiction, short story, A New Friend. Written by Irene Marras. A new friend. Riana washed the blood from her hands, sighing deeply. She had been working non-stop all night. There were more wounded than she could handle, and still more kept coming. "You're exhausting yourself, young woman." A voice came from behind her, soft and calm. But hearing it made Riana jump to her feet. Behind her was a human man dressed in slightly shabby travel clothes, carrying a bag on his shoulder and gently squeezing the strap as he watched her. "What are you doing here, human?" Riana said, "Can't you see this is a Scoia'el camp?" She said, nodding towards the distant sounds and the glow of light reflected from the fires. "I was passing by and happened to notice that you are a healer," the man said. "I happen to be a practitioner of that profession myself and would just like to chat, colleague to colleague." The man's manner of speech was strangely deliberate, but not unkind. Riana looked at him for a moment, head tilted, when she heard Gage's voice, "Riana, O fairest of healers, where art thou?" The woman grunted and pulled the human man behind a tree before replying, "Go to hell, Gage. I'm going to wash myself, and if I see your face peeking out of the bushes, even I can't heal the bruises I'll make on you." There was a bark of laughter in response. The elf woman sighed and turned to look at the man more closely. He was, she would guess, about middle-aged, a little grey at the temples, and friendly looking. Even now he was looking at her with a smile. "No offense, but are you out of your mind? If they see a human sneaking around the camp, they'll gut you," Riana said. "Then why didn't you?" the man asked. She fell silent. Yes, why didn't she? Why hadn't she called Gage for help and instead hidden him? Fortunately, he didn't expect Riana to answer. He just smiled. "My name is Emile Regis Rohelek Tertsief Godefroy, but my friends call me Regis." He made a funny little bow and she involuntarily smiled at the absurdity of the situation. "I'm Riana." "Nice to meet you, Riana," Regis said, still smiling. Then he tilted his head as if thinking, "I saw you use a lady's mantle earlier and... rye. Quite an odd combination if you wanted to reduce a patient's bleeding. I can understand the alchemilla. But rye. I understand it has little to no beneficial healing effects, although as a food source it's excellent if your stomach can tolerate the fiber." Riana smiled. "I didn't give it for nutritional purposes. It had ergot in it." The man's expression brightened. "Yes, indeed. Brilliant, frankly. Although a little dangerous. Too large a dose will cause convulsions and in the worst cases, hallucinations. Those are also better options than dying from internal bleeding," the woman replied with a shrug. Interesting. You're not exactly playing it safe, are you? Is that innate or learned?" the man asked, not unkindly. "When you live among the Scoia'el, you learn to improvise," Riana replied, and continued, "Look, this really isn't a safe place for a human. And knowing Gage, he'll try to come peeping soon anyway. So I'll escort you to the edge of the forest before anyone notices." The man continued to smile that odd little smile of his and bowed slightly. "Lead the way." Riana set off to carry him past the guards in the darkness. Meanwhile the man continued his questioning in a quiet voice. "How long have you been a healer?" "Long time. With Scoia'el, and before that my mother taught me." Riana didn't know why she answered so openly, but something about the man made her feel completely at ease. There seemed to be no threat here. "She must have been a great elf," he said sincerely. "She was human," she replied, while making sure they weren't seen. She could feel him looking at her in the darkness, though she couldn't quite understand how he could see anything at all. The moon was a thin crescent, and in its light she could barely make out anything. "You don't look like a half-elf," he said slowly at last, but continued quickly, "Don't misunderstand, there's nothing wrong with that. I'm just surprised. I'm all full elf." "As far as I know," Riana said, sighed, then said, "Elaine raised me. I don't know who my real parents were, but I called her my mother." As she spoke, Riana could only wonder why on earth she was telling all this to a man, a human man. She paused, however. "Well, you should be fine from here on out, as long as you head south and stay in the bush for a while longer." Regis had stopped too. His eyes seemed to gleam strangely in the darkness for a moment, but that was surely just an illusion created by the shadows. "This was a very pleasant conversation, Riana. I hope we shall meet again sometime. I would love to hear more about your unorthodox healing methods," the man said, extending his hand. She took it and shook it goodbye. But she was still so confused that she could only nod. Regis nodded back, turned and disappeared into the darkness. "Strange guy," she finally said, then turned herself and headed back to camp, not knowing if she would ever see her new friend again.